So yeah, we try very hard to make this. You know, part of the point of our videos, it's got to be interesting, hasn't it? It's got to be people want to watch. Unfortunately, obviously, we're at the mercy of the news. We have to report what's in the news. So obviously, the thing we have to talk about is the Labour leadership debates, gripping as they were. Apparently, got really low viewing figures, didn't it? I don't know if that was
wow,
allegedly.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm sure it seemed like a good idea at the time to sort of have these debates and stuff like that, and try and get voter engagement in politics and stuff. I'm sure that was the justification for it. Mm. But the vast majority of people aren't that interested in what's happening with Labour at the moment. I mean, they've lost the election. They're not part of the narrative at the minute.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though. The narrative is that they're...
The Chojin will appear through the body of a human, and with his great power, he will unite the three worlds. He will create a new world, a world of peace and harmony. His time has now come.
Are you returning to Parliament, though, so that one day you could stand as a leader of your party?
Look, have I said this before about being reincarnated as an olive?
Decimated. They've been destroyed, and that, you know, the Tories are now riding high with their 12-seat majority. John Major in 1992 had 18.
Yeah.
You know, so I think there was a huge attempt to make it like 1997. I think there was in 2010, even when, you know, nobody won.
Yeah. I think what it is there's a core of Labour support that genuinely thought they were going to win, and I was one of them. And it's quite a big fall when you think you're going to win, and
when you're told one poll and it comes out different,
and it's completely wrong, you sort of start to question everything. So how can people be so callous and vote for the Conservatives?
Yeah, well, people have short-term memories. That's my cynical take on it. And they vote based on what's happened in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
What have they been told? Oh no, SNP. That must have been must have been what it was.
So you know, Labour were expecting to certainly be within shouting distance of the largest party, and they didn't make it. So now we've got this dreary leadership contest. It's not as bad as most Labour people suggest. The Conservatives, you know, I mean, they're saying, oh, it's going to be very difficult to come back from this. But don't forget, at the beginning of after the last general election, everyone was saying, well, it's very difficult for the Conservatives to increase their vote share. That never happens. It always goes down election after election. And what happened? They got an overall majority, completely against the wisdom, or the perceived wisdom of the time. So we're in slightly different times. So I'm pretty sure as long as Labour put together a coherent message and a positive message, and sort of take the battle to the Conservatives a little bit, that was what was largely missing in the last Parliament, was you know, shadow cabinet members seriously taking the battle to the Conservatives. I
mean, they're going to be called communists, whatever they do. So there's no point in being moderate, and you know, you've got to
enjoy it.
Yeah,
call yourself the Metropolitan Elites.
Yeah,
and treat it with the
take them down.
I mean, if that's all they've got, we know that the Conservatives can't win an election on the issues, which is why they asked for help from the SNP. So Labour have got to play to their strengths, make the debate about the issues, and then they'll win. They'll start winning seats.
I tell you what, do you remember the leadership debates for the Tories? Last leadership debates for the Tories.
Yeah,
that was much better TV. It was much more interesting. Yeah,
that was incredibly well spun as well. David Cameron,
and it was always going to be Cameron.
Yeah.
And you could see it, and that was really interesting. That, you know, and David Davis was kind of the old, more sort of fact-based, drier traditionalist, and he obviously was never going to be leader. It was never going to happen.
Yeah. The thing that's really going to get the Labour leadership issue going amongst grassroots Labour is the success of Jeremy Corbyn to get nominated. A real left-winger, really likes to debate these issues.
Yeah.
A man who seems to have quite a bit of integrity, who would be quite popular among grassroots.
And I really don't want to upset my colleague John Redwood with his rather strange analogy of traffic lights and roundabouts. I wasn't quite sure where it was going, except in a circular place. But in London, it's his great friend who hates egalitarianism in every with every pore of his body and supports inequality with every fibre of his being, Boris Johnson, who is actually bringing in traffic lights rather than roundabouts. Maybe you could have a word with him if you get membership of the Bullingdon Club.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Is that it's obvious he will never be Labour leader. It's obvious from the start that that's not going to happen. The way he's been presented by the media. So before he spoke, it's like, well, he's going to be like the wild card, and you can't help but think that until you hear him speak. And he says Blair was too far right, took us into wars. The Labour Party being on the right obviously led to the banking crisis. Surely everybody agrees with that. It just seems perfectly reasonable. But he's like Stalin.
He's absolutely right. I mean, the modern crises are born from right-wing politics, and yet
it's been spun so cleverly in the way that people didn't see coming.
It's good to. I'm interested to see how he'll do. Actually, I mean, he could. He could get elected, which would be
fascinating.
It would be seriously fascinating.
Yeah. Well, we're looking at who. It's going to be Boris, isn't it? We're assuming it's going to be Boris, and that's the Tories been very clever because the Boris is going to be a stronger candidate against any of them. I don't think any of them would beat Boris. I think Jeremy Corbyn probably had the best chance, despite the amount of attack he would get. You know, it would be extreme. When you think what they were like to Ed Miliband.
Yeah, well, I suspect he could actually rise above those attacks. I mean, he's already taken this line that he will not use personal attacks in the debate.
Yeah.
And he doesn't believe that should be part of politics, which is something the Conservatives have made a fantastic art of. I mean, you've only got to watch PMQs and it's basically personal attack after personal attack after personal attack. If someone can rise above that, then they would effectively neutralise.
You know, supposedly if everyone's fed up of personality politics and everything, I mean, I don't believe they are. Otherwise we wouldn't have David Cameron as Prime Minister.
I would like to see Corbyn get it, to see how he gets on.
I think right now it is 100% about image, about PR, about all of that stuff. You know, when Yvette Cooper started talking, she seemed really plastic and insincere.
I want to work with business, create the high-tech jobs of the future. As a working mum, I want all our children to have the best chance in life, and I want everyone who shares our values to create a fairer, stronger, less divided Britain to feel that your home is with Labour.
But that doesn't matter. Why does that matter? You know, it shouldn't matter, and yet that is all that matters. That is 100% what matters. Yeah. And we've seen that, and maybe it's partially Margaret Thatcher's fault, certainly Tony Blair's fault, certainly David Cameron's fault, etc.
There's something to be said, actually. We've seen a bit of shenanigans from UKIP this week. Susan Evans sacked and then not sacked, saying something.
I think Nigel is a very divisive character in terms of the way he is perceived. He's not divisive as a person, but the way he is perceived is as having strong views that divide people. Surely.
I mean, she is the person from UKIP most likely to convince normal people to vote for UKIP. You know, Farage will get his certain amount of followers or buy into the old beer swilling, cigarette smoking.
Yeah, but they've seen the limits of that, haven't they? Yeah. TV personality.
But Susan Evans can come across as quite rational and reasoned, and the fact that she's been treated like this can only play negative to UKIP. I mean, they are very close to becoming
extinct.
Yeah, force.
They almost completely blew it after the election, and actually, in some ways, they did well. They had lots of votes. And then almost imploded. It has to be said, it did seem to me that the BBC programme was very much set up against. Well, I think it was biased to Burnham. I think it's already been decided that it's going to be Andy Burnham, and Jeremy Corbyn wasn't allowed much chance to speak, and he was only allowed to speak on specific things, and he was actually interrupted a couple of times because he started talking about things that people would agree with. Almost, that's what it felt like. They introduced everybody with their age. Why would they do that? You know, and of course Jeremy Corbyn was always introduced last, and he came on last. That's what I thought was happening anyway.
Obviously the Labour leadership's not going to be decided by TV debates.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Given what happened, it's just trashy TV. That's what it is. And this was not very trashy TV. It was just a bit boring. Who do you, out of those four though? Who would you think would? Who would beat Boris, and who do you think will win? Who do you think will actually be the leader?
I think Andy Burnham will be the leader. It's such an outside chance. I don't think any of the three main contenders could beat Boris.
Yeah.
Liz Kendall is just saying the same things as Boris, only in a slightly more nuanced fashion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boris can say much more humorously. Andy Burnham he's just lightweight, isn't he?
He is a bit, isn't he?
I mean, if he's talking about Hillsborough or something like that, you take him seriously. And even the NHS, he comes across as quite sincere as caring about the NHS. But any further than that, it's difficult to take him seriously.
You know, we've never had a Prime Minister who went to a comprehensive school. Never. Ed Miliband would have been the first one ever if he'd won. So the chances of Andy Burnham doing it, seems to me,
So, yeah.
he's got the wrong accent.
Yeah.
It seems so unlikely to me.
Yeah. Yvette Cooper, I don't understand where she gets her reputation from.
Well, yeah, I know what her reputation is, and
She's
by association of all that. She wouldn't shake that off.
Wow, she seems to me, the politician, take away the Ed Balls connection, she seems to have learnt to do an impression of what a politician should be doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not really
It's
who
completely
she is.
insincere.
Yeah, it's sort of, it's a manufactured mannerism.
Mm.
I'm not even sure what she stands for and what she believes. And if she did say that, I would have, if she were to sort of try and iterate that, I'm pretty sure it would be couched in so much hedging language that it could be construed as anything. Jeremy Corbyn is the only one who actually speaks with any conviction, is 100% sincere in what he says, will not hedge, and will take the fight to the Conservatives.
Yeah.
So actually, I think he's the only one who could stand a chance against Boris.
Yeah, and it will not happen. That is why it will not happen.
You assert that Boris is going to win. I think the Conservatives are going to...
What, Theresa May?
Undermine themselves. I'm not sure who it'll be now, but...
You think it'll be a bit of an implosion?
Yeah.
Tory style?